Hi, welcome to the new episode of Sportsy Let's Aim Sports. Today we have with us a equestrian, Imtiaz Anees, who took the horse riding like a fish to water, and it soon became a passion for him, one that continued throughout his life, beginning with the first competition win at the age of 6, eventually winning the multiple equestrian events both nationally and internationally. Imtiaz is the only Indian rider to compete at the equestrian 3-day event at Olympics Sydney 2000 at the age of 30. Please welcome trainer, educator, competitor, and a qualified equestrian Australian level 2 instructor and a coach, as well as a Sydney 2000 Olympian who is an author of a book, Riding Free, Imtiaz Anees.
It was pounding, and yet I was sitting still.
India, and Imtiaz Anees.
I was where thousands of eventing riders around the world had dreamt of being, the
90
Olympics.
seconds. It looks as if he'll probably make the time. And he does quite comfortably, 83.
Riding free, my Olympic journey is about achieving the impossible, and truly hope it inspires you enough to never give in.
Hi Imtiaz, it's great to have you on Sportsy Let's Aim Sports.
Thank you so much for having me.
And believe me, it is so much fun. We again on a different aspect, it is we get to host people from the sporting industry, from say cricket or basketball or football and all those things, but never had a chance to host a equestrian. It is something which is so amazing, and it is not only a equestrian and the long accolades of a trainer, educator, and a competitor, all those things, but also a 2000 Sydney Olympian, recently converted author with his new book called Riding Free. So Imtiaz, great to have you here.
Thank you again. What a lovely introduction. It's very kind.
Uh, introduction has to be lovely for you because the your companion is so lovely. It's the
That's
horse.
true.
It's
That's
one of the
true.
most lovely companion that you can get. So I just tried my bit with that. But uh, one question that I get to ask my athletes who come on my show is how it all started, because it is not a game for masses. It is not that everybody goes and how much ever I love the animals. It's not like I'm going to go love the horse and start riding it and go to that level. How was the beginning for you?
Well, I was very fortunate because my mother and my grandfather were both avid horse people and horsemen, and they went to the riding club every day. So I was taken at a very young age, at 4 years old. So I was accustomed to the horse, and
Okay.
I grew passionate about it. I got very close to it. So there was no fear factor. I was already, very very fond of them. So and then I was very sporty. Played a lot of sport in life. And when I was young, I always thought, I always dreamt, since I was 6 years old, I wanted to represent India. I used to do victory speeches, and how people in the bathroom sing songs. Mine was always a victory speech, and I would be, thanking everybody that actually helped me and things like that. I would, actually have a podium in the house. I have to put it with chairs and stand on it every day and say thank you everybody, thank you my mother, thank my father, things like that. Because I just wanted to represent India. And it's funny you asked that because I didn't even know which sport. When you're that young, you don't know how you're good at any sport. So I thought first it could be running because I was I was a good runner. So obviously I wasn't fast enough, and then I thought I was a good swimmer. But obviously not good enough. But horses always was a part of my life. So I then decided I'm going to pursue equestrian.
Okay, so glad you perceived that and not kept focusing on the running and swimming, so that at least we got the Olympian to represent the country. But uh, I'm sure the journey wasn't easy, even though you had the horseman in the family. It wasn't a journey which becomes pretty easy, because you're dealing with not equipment. You are dealing with uh, a partner in the whole process. So how was that journey dealing with the partner, and what kind of these thing teaches you
So,
in journey?
it's interesting you bring this up because, like any other sport, like you look at cricket or you look at football, once the sport is over, you put your equipment in a kit bag and it's over. With a horse, it's not. So whether you have a good day, whether you have a bad day, whether you can win or you can even fall, you still have to come back and look after that horse. You know, you have to bathe it, groom it, feed it, water it. So there's a lot more than just any other sport. It teaches you humility. It teaches you resilience. It teaches you punctuality. You know, there's so many things that this sport can teach you. It's unbelievable, and it's actually just actually taking care of something else rather than yourself. You know, most sportsmen, they're all about themselves. You know, it's all about me. In our sport, it's not. You know, I would love to say I'm the equestrian Olympian, but actually my horse is as much of an equestrian Olympian than me,
Yeah.
if not more. You know, so and I always say it's the horses, and that's why when I tell my story also through that book that you mentioned earlier, it's always around the horses because each and every one has played a very important part. But this sport is so much more than an average sport.
Right. So in while growing up, how did you actually develop that thing? Yes, you like the horses. You are not there are no fear of falling or all those things. But having love for something else beyond yourself in that young age is something very tough to develop. So how did that happen, and what were the process of? Because there's so many kids who are watching it. They might be loving the animal, and they might want to get into horse riding, or want to get into the show jumping, but how do you love somebody more than yourself, and how do you learn that in the early stage of your life?
I think the most important thing is spending time with the animal. Once you spend time with the animal, you really understand what a fantastic animal this is. It actually doesn't do anything for itself. Everything that you do is because you make it do it. You know what I mean? So it is a big animal, and people shouldn't be scared of it. You know, actually, even I hate to say for even any other sport or any animal, people are, oh my God, the dog will bite, or cat, stay away, stay away. That parents have already instilled in their children. But no, if we are actually, if the children are not instilled with that fear, it will be a wonderful relationship. So it's something that you learn. Then there's a second aspect to it. In my life, I was very fortunate at a very young age. I was able to have a mentor and a coach. So I was very lucky. So when you ask the sport, how come I did it or how come I chose it? It's because I had the right people. I had a
Yes.
fantastic support team. You know, my parents were very supportive. I had a superb coach from England who was a management expat that was posted in India. So, she trained me. And what's quite, I just want to bring this in because I was only 11 years old when I met her and she took me to the Olympics. So for 20 years, she trained me and there was never a hiccup. Not once did I ever doubt her. There was never once a misunderstanding, nothing. She said, this is it. When I was 11 years old, she trained me and right till City 2000, she was by my side. So it was very, very special.
Wow. And having a coach for 20 years, and it's something that even, as you said, the right team was there, right support was there. But it is something that we need to understand that how do you look for the talent in this sport at so early? Because this is something that get developed over time. It is about it's about the what is it, the partnership between the horse and the rider both.
Right.
So how do you think the talent gets identified?
No, I think it's time. Firstly, one thing our sport, like you rightly mentioned, like any other sport, your career's over when you're 25, 26. Some of them can push it to 20. Some people 21, your career's over. In equestrian, your career actually begins at 30. Or 28. You know what I mean? So you've got a lot of years of patience, a lot of years of bonding with the animal, and you go through different animals because every stage is a different horse. It's like you
Yeah.
drive your first car. The first car you sit on when you're 18 years old to learn, you don't sit in a Rolls Royce, or you don't sit in a sports car. You actually
Yes.
sit in a simple car just to learn. Then you gradually progress to better and better cars as you get better. So same thing with the horse world. As you grow and as your years go by, you identify which horse has that ability, which horse can take you to that next level, which horse do you have a bond with, and actually, so because you have to work together, you have to be one with that horse. So it's really, really a special feeling when you're actually competing. It's I've competed nationally, even in other sports. So I was a very good sports person. I mean, I was very sporty. So I used to love all other sports. But the feeling with a horse was totally unmatched.
Yeah. And how much of that feel is actually mental physical and emotional? How is the percentage of that?
Oh, very good question, because really it is so emotional. And even when I used to compete at the top level, it was quite interesting. And I even tell my students today that physically I was never tired, but mentally exhausted because of the stress factor. Because you're dealing with an animal that you don't know what's going to happen. He's
Yeah.
an animal. At the end of the day. Secondly, in our sport, which is 3 day eventing, it's cross country where it's dangerous. So you're traveling at very fast speeds, 4 kilometers up and down hills, undulating terrain, and the horse has never seen the course. So it's quite dangerous. So mentally, it's exhausting.
Yeah. So I again probably a lot of questions which are coming are so fast from my side because that's my inquisitiveness about the thing about the whole liking because yeah, it's I'm very close to animals personally. It's like I'm brought up in an animal loving family and
Oh,
my
lovely.
so yeah, and my wife is actually she's a animal communicator.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
yeah, so it is like for us in the house, it is all about animals all the time. So that's why, and as I
That's the way
mentioned
it should
earlier,
be.
yeah, and as I mentioned, my sister is being an equestrian at the
Yeah.
young age, and so this is something where probably my questions are coming out with a lot of enthusiasm. But let's move to the other chapter when after 20 years, when the with your coach you actually represent India in the Olympics. So you obviously had worn the India jersey before that. So what was the feel when you actually the dream of a 4-year boy preparing the speech to represent India actually turns true when you actually get to wear the India jersey, the Tiranga on your jersey. So how was that feel?
It's unexplainable. To be honest, I keep telling people it's something you cannot buy. It's something you cannot be just given. You earn it. So when you
Yeah,
wear it, it has a different, carries different weight, which is special. When you wear that flag, I will wear the blazer, sorry, not the flag. It's a very proud moment. The next proud moment for me is always, always for me is when I'm in the ring and I see the India flag because all different flags are there from different countries. And in my sport, I'm the only Indian, so I
yeah,
know that flag is flying only because of me. So that gives you even more special feeling that you got to do
yeah,
justice to that flag. That is most important because they've only hoisted it because of you. So not only that the billions of people in India who are banking on it, but you got to respect that flag to such an extent. So it's for a sportsman. These are the things that make it special. That's what we do. All the sacrifices, all the failures. There's so many things. One success, and you're like, yes, you have another 4 years of failure. Which people never realize. People only look at the success. But
right.
actually, we go through a lot of failures as well. But it's about
Yeah.
never giving, going through that, a lot of sweat, a lot of sacrifice. Then when you actually get there, you wear that blazer, you see that flag, and you're like, it's all worth it.
Yeah, and I think for your sport specifically, I think the failure is a different aspect because you can't take your anger out on anything because your partner is such an amazing animal,
Yes,
and it is something that you get the failure failed to yourself and you have to improve it better with the better partnership. So I think it's a amazing humanity lesson. I think over
always,
the course.
always. It builds character to another level. I promise you that.
Yeah, and yeah, I think that is something that, and we are all waiting to see that book and going to read that for sure with the whole stories. But coming as an athlete level, as you said that okay, when you know that you are the only one for whom the flag is actually flying high, and you go on to next level and you actually win medals at the Asian Games and the Asia Pacific Games. Uh, so what is that level? Because now first is competing. Uh,
Right,
Olympic is all not it's not winning the medal is a different level, but
right.
getting qualified for Olympic and competing is the different level. But
Yeah.
in different tournament, in Asian and other championship, you actually go on to win a medal for the country, and you know you're the only one. It's not like the whole it's not a contingent of 30 people or 100 people
Yes, yes.
going for that sport. So how does that feel when you see that?
No, it feels great. It really does. But again, it's a hard one because as an athlete, we all would like to win, but it's the journey that you've gone through. And with an animal, we always point at the horse. I always think it's special for that horse, because he's gone through it with you. There are lots of times you've had crashes or you've got injuries and he's not been at his peak performance. You haven't been at your peak performance. So there's so much that goes in. So when you're on that podium, it's a very special feeling. It really is. I mean, it's just for every athlete dreams of it. But I always tell people that even if you don't, you got to enjoy the journey and the amount we've learned in that journey. That's what's going to hold us in good stead in whatever we do in life. As a person, that's how you are. If you're an Olympian or if you're a person that's competed at the Asian level, you're a disciplined person. You can't just reach there without being disciplined. Even in today's day and age, I'm up at 5:30. If I have a lesson, I'm never late for that lesson. If I tell somebody 6 o'clock, I always tell them 5 to 6, you're late. But that's instilled in you because of this of sport.
Yeah. Imtiaz, as we say, this is not a sport which is widely played. It is not still not for the masses, and uh, so I'm sure the federation was there, and you have worked with the federation as a player, and beyond that as a coach, and all those things. What kind of thing that you see have changed over the period of your journey and beyond that with
So
the
what was
federation, because it is getting more and more professional in all aspects. So,
yes.
what has happened?
The one thing that has changed is that the sport was a very army-dominated sport, only because the army, that's what they should compete
Yeah.
against. And I was the only civilian, as I was the first civilian that represented India at the Asian Games, first civilian to medal, first civilian. There were many firsts, but I was the lone ranger. I was the one who tried to decide that this is the path I want to choose. Now it has changed. So in 20 years, this events are now being held in civilian centers, in riding clubs. The sport has grown drastically. So even riders, when I used to compete, I was the only one. Now they're 500 to 1,000 at every event from at all age groups. So it's wonderful that the sport has grown in that direction, and we hope that we get more and more Olympians, or even more and more international level riders. And we've already seen that. When I was there, I was the only one. So now there are several. So I'm really really happy and feel positive about it.
Yeah, and I think while we are talking about this, and we had a day where Fawad Mirza actually had a good day. And so, what do you see when you see a youngster
It's
there?
amazing. It feels great. I mean, you really feel so proud because, and knowing the sport so well, knowing what horses are, I know how much hard work he's done. It's 4 years of sacrifice. Most other sportsmen, things like that, they do it 2 years, 3 years, or six, just before the Olympic Games. For us, we have to go overseas even for our qualifying events, leaving home,
Hmm.
leaving family, sacrifices. It's a lot of hardships. And there's a lot of physical work as well, not only for yourself, but for your horse. In India, you have people like grooms and people that look after horses. Out there, you have to do it all by yourself. So it's a
Yeah,
lot of work that this boy has put into, and he did a fantastic test today.
yeah,
So I'm really excited. He's got in striking distance. If you look at don't look at his even position, which even his position is amazing. But even if you don't look at his position, if you look at the points, he's not very far from the winner. So he's
yeah.
actually striking distance from being a medal. And what would it do for the sport? It's just amazing.
Yeah, and I think that is what we need to see, the what Saina Nehwal did to badminton
Yes.
with the first medal, then the PV Sindhu is the next generation, and so I'm saying it's what Leander Pace
Yes.
did, and people got inspired by his bronze medal about
Right.
the individual. So I
Exactly.
think it is, everybody has their own first. Even though we are a
Right.
country of 1.3 billion, we still don't have a sporting culture,
No, no,
unfortunately.
no.
But I think those firsts are very very important. You
Very
being one of
important for
those.
the young people, for people to inspire them, for people to know. Even like when I was talking to somebody the other day, even when Mirabai won her first medal, it's fantastic for the contingent. Day one to win a medal, it sets the right tone for everybody. Everybody goes there and say, "Oh my God, nobody's winning, nobody's winning, nobody's winning." Then everybody's there. The pandemic is also on. There's so many restrictions. It plays on the mental health of these
Yeah.
athletes. So to have a medal there so quickly, it's fantastic. So same with Fuad, to have a fantastic performance on day one, it sets the tone. Now he's got the energy to say, well, it's all reachable and he can do it. So,
Yes.
it helps all sportsmen and helps people back home to also believe, wow, now we look into these sports, so that therefore maybe we put our child into it, whatever
Mm.
sport. I always say it doesn't matter. Put your children into sport. Let them try it. It's not just going down to the playground and play a little bit of, cricket and football and come back. That's not sport, which a
Yeah.
lot of people in India feel that is sport. No, our child goes every day to the playground and plays. So we have to change that at home, at school, at college, everything.
Yeah, and I think we are taking the steps. It could have happened. It should have happened long back, but at least it is happening in the right direction. So we wish to see better performance and not have to wait and every 4 years for this, and
Yes.
throughout the journey we get to see that. Uh, Imtiaz, coming from your athlete journey to the later part, when you actually have your own training school, the Seahorse Equestrian. So can you please tell us something about the whole training school and what the
So
philosophy behind it?
yeah, so the whole philosophy behind was actually number one was to give back. I trained. I've been living overseas for many years, 20 years in the US and 10 years in Australia. And I decided that this is the time now to come back and give back. I've already achieved what I wanted to achieve as an athlete. And my next goal would be, I would love to be, like my coach who was there, took me to the Olympic Games for 20 years. I would love to be that person for somebody else. And the other thing I wanted to really come back is to instill this. My equestrian center is a bit different from everywhere else. It's a live-in place, so people can come for a weekend, you can come for a week. Some people come for 3 and 4 months. I have students who even stay, So it's a long-term thing because you have to get into their lives. It's not only coaching. Coaching is they come to the ring, you teach them and they leave. That's what happens everywhere else. That's not good enough. That's not what it takes. They've got to come and actually be there 24/7 with their horses, learning everything. So in our sport, there's a lot of horse management as well. I've actually done a degree. I did an equine master's in equine management. So, to instill those to these younger generation kids and help them and set them up to go overseas because we don't have that infrastructure. So at least the foundation can be strong enough that when they go overseas, they're already on a decent platform to go further, rather than going straight without having that foundation. So that was my whole goal of setting this Seahorse Equestrian Center. It's a beautiful place. It's right on the beach, so we have a great training facility, and I thoroughly enjoy it. I love teaching. So I spent hours and hours with these kids.
And how do people come there to experience the first pony ride to get it adjusted to that?
Oh, it's amazing because it's new for them. So we have the sometimes it's just a mother and daughter, sometimes it's father and daughter, sometimes it's a family, sometimes they're really all national level riders as well. So it's a nice mixture that you have because the whole idea for me is not only the top, not only the bottom, it's the whole as one. That we need to give them as much exposure as possible and the correct exposure, so they see how it's correctly done, rather than they look at it and they get put off and say, well, no, this is not the sport for me. I want them to have a good experience. I want them to have a play, at least that weekend. Wow, we had a great weekend. Then they'll think about, oh, maybe this horse can teach us more than we can teach this horse.
And so good. I think it is. It's a place where you go and build that relation. And
absolutely.
So before I come to the book part of it, I have one more question. Again, probably
Yes,
it is
yes.
the child in me asking this question. Probably it is about. Over the course of your playing career, you have seen so many horses that you have rode so many different kind of horses.
Yes, yes.
So, what do you learn from different horses? And I'm sure every animal is different. The way every human is different. Every animal is different.
Yeah.
So, what are some of those probably fond memories that you have with different animals outside the ring, and how do they react to you?
No, I've had a lovely relationship with my horses. Even in the book, it tells you the first horse of mine was Rajesh. I was only 4 years old, and this horse is a big horse, and he was a powerful horse. And he threw my grandfather off. He's thrown my mother off with major injuries, like they broken their collarbone. He broke everybody in the family off. And I was only 4 years old, but when I sat on him, we were just one. I never had a fall of him. When I won my first competition, all on him. We were like unstoppable. So that was the bond that we had. Every horse teaches you something different. Every horse you have a special relationship with. And actually, I know I'm jumping a bit because I know the next question's on the book, but that's how I wrote the book because I remember the horses and then all the stories around the horses came. Because for me, those horses were so special. Even now, when you come to Seahorse Equestrian, I have stables, and every stable I've named after all my old horses. So everyone has a brass plaque and it's put on that stable because it is about them. It is because of them I'm here today. It is because of them I'm talking to you today. It is because of them I became an Olympian or represented India at the Asian Games. So it's all about them for me. They are my life, and I just absolutely love it. So it's all about giving back to them. The one thing that they all would have taught me, if it was one thing, it would have been patience.
Interesting. And yeah, I think that's a fundamental of the relationship, right? Patience.
Yes.
And I think that is so wonderfully put in. And I think you're making me go for that book more and more with the stories that I want to read from that. One more question. I was just looking at one company they call Stable Innovation, and they are into they are the sports tech company for the horse riders and monitoring the horses and their performance and all those things. How do you think the actual technology is playing a role in actually the human relations or the animal relations? How the technology is playing the role?
Well, I have not heard about that. I think the real technology is playing a role mainly in the way we train. So, before it was, a lot of them, we used to just gallop the horses and get them fit. And it was all on feeling. Now it's all on heart rates. So, it's on Bluetooth. Everybody's got these smartphones and it's attached to the horse. So it's put on the saddle. So we know at what speed the horses are traveling. We can tell what their heart rate is. We can tell what their recovery heart rate is. So you know whether they were aerobic, anaerobic. So it's got very scientific in getting them fit, which we never had before. Before it was more like a something that we just guessed. There was always a
Yes.
guesstimation, and then because if you as inexperienced, you would get off and actually put a stethoscope, and then check their heart rate. Now you can, it's on your watch. Your heart rate, the horse's heart rate. There are lots of, there are a lot of apps now which you can put in your pocket and it tells you what distance you travel, how far you travel, and what speed you travel. So that's where technology is coming in more in that fitness. The second
Mhm.
part, technology really has changed drastically is the nutrition. But I think that's more science. Like we're now
Right.
feeding our horses much better. We've got far more, it's more calculated than before when it was just
Understood.
oats or barley. Now it's down to every single mineral is calculated.
Okay. So is there something like the way we have the athletes have NADA WADA kind of thing? Does horses also have the anti-doping and those kind of tests happening for them?
Absolutely. Yes, yes. So we have to test the horses after every event because riders are not as tested, were never tested, except for the last Olympic Games. They've started
Yeah.
testing riders also now. But otherwise, it's always only the horses because they're the ones who perform. So they're tested all the time. You cannot do anything at all. Any painkiller, any enhancer, any performance enhancer, nothing.
Interesting. So I think I come to the last section from early childhood to an athlete to an Olympian to the somebody who has their own training institute to somebody who is just wrote a book. It's Riding Free. What is that book is all about? You have given glimpses over the period that we're
Yes.
talking about. I know. And
So
what inspired you to write that book?
So the main inspiration came from is, as I said earlier, also is giving back. And I think the book, though I'm a sports person, though it's equestrian and it's my story, I hope it goes to a wider audience to get out that through sport, there's so many things that you can learn. Because that book really tells you how many failures I went through, how many setbacks, and the resilience. You never give up and you stay focused. And if your dream is so true, you don't let things like, oh, I don't have enough money, or I don't have enough resources, I don't have enough time. You'll never have enough money. You'll never have enough resources or time. You know what I mean? Don't make it. There are many ways you can make excuses all the time. But if you really go for your goal, it is all possible. But you have to put the hard work in. So you can see it. I mean, I came from a fairly privileged background. I went to a top boarding school. I went to an extremely good college. But at the same time, when I decided to do this, I was on my own. I was taking some parts of the book I'm going to give you. I was traveling in a truck with my horse from Delhi to Jaipur to even places like Bihar, all by myself. In those years, there were no cell phones also. So my parents sitting in Bombay didn't even know where I was. Am I alive? Am I okay? Because I was traveling at night till the next morning, and I would get to a pay phone and then call them and say I've reached. So that sort of risk factor was there, but it was a desire that I'm going to represent this country. Whatever happens, wherever it takes me, I will get there to happen. So that's one side of the book. The second side of the book, which is really a lovely part, is the amount of people that actually help me. This could be an individual sport, but I could not have done this with amount of people. I mean, right, like for my parents, then of course my coach Diana, who stuck with me, never took a single rupee, dollar, or anything. It was all with the goodness of their heart. Even in Australia, I hit a lot of failures. I was about to, literally to the point where I was going to turn around and come back, and like literally an angel comes from the top, and another Australian family, and I stayed with them for 3 years, and they supported me and kept me. It was all put together to say to accomplish my dream. So it's just how life works. That if you really want something, go for it, and the universe will come together.
Excellent. I think, and those we have again, as I said, we get to hear so many stories. Every story is inspiring. If somebody writes about their life, and the
Yes.
people achievers like you have the stories are always inspiring. But something which is like it's a journey with a partner. It's a journey with somebody who is one of the what to say pure souls
Yes.
that you get
Absolutely.
to get to work with, they get to ride
Right.
and get to partner with. I think that is so wonderful, and it just teaches so many things. So, uh, yeah, firstly about when and how do we get the book is the first question
Yeah.
that
The,
I have
the,
for you.
the book is out. We timed it quite well for the opening games. On the opening 70 days it was released on that day. It's available on Amazon. I really wish people would read it, and I want parents also to read it. The goal really is to tell their children to live their dream. You know what I mean? We are always telling them what they can't do. You know, they can't do this or they can't do that, or what to do. No, no, no. Today's day, the children are different. Different. You know, I was different from that. You know, this was 30 years ago, and my parents were still, forward thinking to allow me to live there. You know, and that what a dream. It's a bit like the Jamaicans saying they're going to go bobsledging,
Yeah.
cool running. There's no snow in Jamaica. Like for me, I one day just told my parents, I said, I think I'm going to go to the Olympics in Equestrian. I think they both looked at each other and said, "Oh my God, where does this come from?" But they first immediately turned around and said, "Go for it." No clue of how or what. The next phone call was to Diana, my coach. Said, "This is what he wants to do." She said, "Oh no, 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 this is not going to happen." But they still supported it. So the book, when you read this book, you really realize that, boy, let the kids be who they want to be and support them.
Okay. Do you have a book next to you?
Yes.
I can see one in the background, but yeah. So Riding Free is the book, and this is by an Olympian about amazing journey. It's not only about Olympics, about the building relation and giving a dream. And I think that it's about the parents to understand that let the kids have the dream and live the dream. I
Exactly.
think it is wonderful. That I love the name. I think there's a lot of analogy to that name. If I have to read it as a parent, as an athlete, as somebody who understands, I think amazing analogy to that name. So it is wonderful to have you on the show. And just on the last one last question about, yes, people will be reading this book, and we'll make sure that understand what it is. But a message that you want to give it uh, to the kids, parents. I think you gave the message about let them live their dream.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
the message to the new generation kids about how do they can actually learn few things in their life to be a better human, what
I
that
think
could be.
I would say the best message that I could give them is that there is no short change for hard work. Okay, you have to get up in the morning and you have to show up to work. That's your rule number one. In order to be anybody in life. So it doesn't just things don't just come to you. You have to go and get them. So make the most of your life. You only have one life, so you got to make the most of it. Make it count. You know what I mean? Live your dream. Go for it. Don't live in your comfort zones. Don't hold yourself back. Don't make excuses. There's so much talent in this country. If only they would just get out of that comfort zone and go for it, we would have more medals or not only medals, in anything in life. Most successful people, it's their work ethic, it's their discipline, it's their determination. That's why they're successful. They're not successful because they're talented. Everybody's talented, but you have to put the other three to make it happen. So I really hope the younger generation are listening and saying, listen, bridge the gap between the impossible and the possible is in your hands.
Yes, I think wonderful, and I'm sure the viewers and listeners are going to really enjoy this chat. And for people, the link for the book will be in the description. You can find it here, as well as obviously on Amazon it is available. Imtiaz Anees is a name that doesn't need an introduction, and I'm privileged to have him here. So Imtiaz, it's wonderful to talk with you, and thank you for being on Sportsy.
Thank you so much for having me. It's really, really, I thoroughly enjoyed it. And thank you for giving me the platform to spread the word of sports.
Yes, thank you, and wish you all the best and stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Thank you for liking and thank you for sharing. But please do subscribe on our channel Sportsy Says and help us spread the word about Sportsy. We go with the same handle Sportsy Says across all the social media platforms.